Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the True North Podcast. I'm your host, Micah Price Ballard, and I have with me today my friend Hannah Wells.
Hello, podcast listeners.
Hannah is back by popular demand. I know you missed her.
I'm so happy to be back. I'm so glad that you guys wanted me back.
Yes, we all love to listen to Hannah talk.
Yeah, I feel like I get sick of hearing myself talk, so I'm glad that you guys enjoy it.
Yes, Hannah was super great last time she came on the podcast, and we talked about what it means to be the bride of Christ. It was actually one of my favorite episodes we've ever done.
I really loved the topic.
It was a requested topic, I remember, and I remember when it came through, and I was like, "Oh, I have no idea what we're gonna say about this. I don't know the answer."
I was like, "This is really an undertaking for me." So
yeah, I'm glad
we did it. I learned a lot.
Yeah, it was great. I learned a lot when I was doing it, as opposed to like what I probably would have if I was just studying that randomly on my own.
So if you guys haven't listened to that, you should scroll on back and
absolutely.
go give that a listen.
Take a trip down memory lane. Well, Hannah, why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners, for those of them that may be new, words are hard, for those of them that may be new, and just kind of tell them a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you are, and how you came to know the Lord.
Okay. Yeah, so obviously my name is Hannah. Me and Micah have been friends for a few years now. I feel like we've always been in the same circle-ish. I definitely thought she was a celebrity at one point and was like, man, I wish I could be her friend.
And then she met me and was like, never mind.
Here I am on the podcast, so I think I'm famous now. But it's only gone to my head a little bit. So I grew up locally in West Virginia. I was homeschooled. I'm part of a really big family, so I have 7 other siblings, and that was definitely an experience.
Yeah, wow.
But it was really fun growing up that way. And then now I came to know the Lord when I was really, really young. I've always grown up in church, so that's definitely something that I've always carried with me, but I accepted the Lord when I was really little. I honestly don't have like a life-changing testimony to be like, this was a huge moment for me when I like came to know Christ, because I was very young. But I continued to grow up in church, and I got baptized when I was a teenager at that same church, still go there. And the Lord has worked in incredible ways in my life, and I'm so thankful, and hope to get to share a little bit of that with you on the pod today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm in college. I graduate in 2 months.
Yay!
Yes,
it's almost over.
Actually, by the time this airs, I'll probably be pretty close
to done.
Pretty close. So super excited about that, and yeah, that's what I.
And so, what are you gonna do? Tell them what you're gonna work as.
I'm going to be a sonographer, which,
cool.
If you don't know that term, that is an ultrasound technician, the person that looks all babies.
Yeah, it's so fun.
It's so fun.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yes,
I take pictures and do social media.
It's the same thing.
Big difference.
It's literally, sometimes I'm just a photographer too.
Hey, you know what? Yeah. That's so true. Good point. I like that, actually.
I know. I'm like, I understand a little bit.
That's really
now
cool.
You give me a camera though, and I'm like,
how do I work this?
But then I can adjust some things.
I will say, so we went to Europe last year, me, Hannah, and our friend Erin.
Oh gosh, that camera.
Yes, so Hannah bought a camera for the trip, and obviously we didn't really study like how to use it super well before the trip, and so we were like pretending we were vloggers. Big old camera. Yes, yeah.
And honestly, everything was so out of focus.
Yeah, and couldn't have looked more tourist if we tried. To be honest, yeah.
But it's okay.
They were cute, though.
They were cute.
A lot of them were really
cute,
good.
And we had a good time.
The ones at Buckingham Palace, I remember, were like next level pictures. They were good. But we looked pretty American. I mean, as if we didn't already. I feel like I just walk in and they're like, American. Actually, on our honeymoon a couple times, some of the restaurants spoke to my husband and I in French to start. And I'm pretending it's because they thought we were French. Probably wasn't. They're probably just like, this is Paris. That's why we do it. I know, but I totally was like, oh my gosh, we look so French.
No,
and they were like,
you're not all the American vibes.
Yeah, American wannabe, whatever country you're in.
I think it's the taking a picture of every coffee you get. I think that is the biggest part.
I'll never apologize for
that.
They're like,
oh, they're Instagramming the coffee. They must be from another
I have
country.
to be honest, though. I felt very validated because there were so many other people that were not American that I saw doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
It really wasn't just us. Like, I was like, I know they don't speak the same language as me because I heard them talking, and she's taking more pictures today than I have.
I do that here, too. So, really, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you know that it's CoffeeGram at all times.
CoffeeGram, yes. If I didn't post it, I don't even know if I drank it, to be honest with you.
Sometimes I'll check out a new coffee shop just to take a picture.
I don't even think I have one. Honest. Shout out to Sharon Bibb for my cute mug, by the way. Yes, I told her I would highlight it. We do, and we love the strawberry mug. For those of you that know me, strawberries are my thing. My pillow has them. I think the one you're sitting with, or she's hidden. Yeah, she's really cute. There she is. Look at her. All the strawberries. If you're watching the video, you can see it. If you're not, you need to go back because it's really cute. But maybe we should actually talk about something serious since we're here on the pod. We're just gonna talk. It's fine. Which this is pretty much this podcast. You may as well be sitting at the coffee shop with me and Hannah having one of our conversations. I feel like that's actually how this podcast episode started, was based on some conversation that we had about something we were going through, one of us or both of us. I don't even remember at this point, but I do remember a lot of the things we said. I was like, man, I really wish we'd had a microphone. I wish someone could have heard that, because I feel like it was such good honest advice, honest, raw content.
Sometimes when you don't have the mic or the camera, you get real, and you're like, I wish somebody else could benefit from that.
Yeah, for sure.
It might never get that honest again.
And so that's what this is. We're bringing the real to the microphone. Yeah. So the topic of this episode, the title is actually, Why Am I Not Healed Yet? And I may as well have taken it from quotations in one of my journals way back when.
Or one of my prayers.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely the moments where I'm like, God, why?
Why
am I still here? Why am I not healed yet?
And we get angry with God, I think, when we don't heal in the way that we want to, or in the the time frame, all of the things. And I'm referring more to emotional healing in this episode as opposed to physical healing. Because I do feel like emotional healing, there are different levels of control we can have over that process. Obviously, God's in ultimate control, but what I realized in my own healing journey over different things is a lot of things that we'll talk about. But one of them was just that I had a lot more responsibility in this, that it wasn't that God wasn't choosing to heal me or let me get over this. It's that I was refusing to, because there were certain steps toward healing that I was unwilling to take. And the Lord really humbled me on that. And one of them, which was a big one, was forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
And, we looked up the definitions. Hannah and I both did. I actually saw that on your notes, too. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, I did that, too.
Straight from the Webster Dictionary.
Yes, absolutely. And so is yours the biblical definition?
This is just the regular one.
Okay, give that one.
My notes have a little... So the regular, Webster Dictionary definition of healing is the process of making or becoming sound or healthy again.
Okay, great. That's pretty self-explanatory, I think. Pretty straightforward, And
if you were one way and then you derailed a little bit, healing would be coming right back to that point.
Yeah, pretty much. So if you think about a physical injury, I feel like that's a good example of that. But when you get into the biblical definition, it's a lot more poetic, I will say. A lot more pretty words. But it really surprised me at how emotional it was. And the definition was to restore one's soul, to bring things back together and to be whole, or to forgive one's sins, or to forgive another's sins. It was another's sins. And I remember being like, oh, we have to forgive sins to heal? It's like, oh, what translation? Is that all of them? I was actually pretty taken back, but I also had one of those moments where I was like, oh, okay, God, I know you're right. I can see it. Yep. And so that was a very groundbreaking discovery for me when it came to actually how to heal from something. Was, well, have I not healed yet because I haven't forgiven it? And 99% of the time it was yes. For sure. And so, but one thing I want to talk about before I go into this is God does not expect you to just forget what happened to you and act like it didn't hurt. Healing is not pretending that you weren't wounded by something. And I do think that we all live in a very sweep it under the rug, brave face society where, you're not supposed to show that anything hurt you. And I think that when we're expected to heal from something or encouraged to heal, people are like, but you don't understand how it felt to me. Right. And God doesn't want us to do that. I really don't think that God invalidates the way that we feel. Not. He is upset for you, right? He acknowledges that this was wrong. And there was a scripture I wanted to read about that, and it was Isaiah 55:13. And it says, instead of the thorn bush, a cypress will come up, and instead of the briar, a myrtle will come up, and this will stand as a monument for the Lord, an everlasting sign that will not be destroyed. And so I love that it actually mentions the thorn bush and the briar. God doesn't pretend these things didn't happen to you. Yeah, for sure. It's not that once you get better, it's like, well, we don't talk about that. That didn't happen to you.
Also, I think you can learn from it. I think, shout out Lisa Turkhurst, which we'll probably shout her out again because she's the queen of forgiveness. But, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen, and it doesn't mean that you can't learn from it and go back to that point. I don't think you should dwell on it all the time, and I don't think you should make it your identity. But I think that being able to recognize what happened in the past and what hurts you went through and how you healed from those helps you to grow in the future. So I don't think we should just be like, forgive it, forget it, don't ever think about it again. Because I do think that is going to be useful information in the future.
Yeah. Well, and even this verse mentions that, good things will come of it, and it will stand as a monument to the Lord. So the things that we go through and that we heal from.
What you go through.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Happy spring, too. Good timing on that. But yeah, I think that if we can look at things that way, as opposed to, if I could let God move in this, it could actually become something more than just what was done to me, or something that I choose to identify with. Yeah. And, let's talk a little bit about that, kind of living labeled under what's been done to you. So as we start that, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you think it means in your own terms to heal and what it means to live identified by your hurt.
Okay. So I do think that healing is different for everyone. I think that everybody experiences healing in a different way, and I think it depends on what you're trying to heal from. But I think where they get it wrong, and what I don't like about just the regular definition of healing, is that it doesn't leave any room for growth.
Yeah.
It goes from you were here, and then you weren't, and then you're back here, and that's what it means to be healed. And I think that, while that is true, and you're trying to come back to the state that you were in, it doesn't leave any room for what happened to you in the middle.
Yeah,
and I think that the middle is the most important part of that. The nights of praying, the nights of crying, the nights of just trying to understand and trying to dwell in what God has taught you through that. I think that is the part that we miss out on. We're just I was this way and this happened, and all I want to do is be back there or restore this relationship or fix this thing. And sometimes fixing isn't what we think it's going to be, or sometimes fixing isn't going back to the old thing.
Sometimes fixing isn't what we need to do at all.
Right. Sometimes we just need to let it go and let it not be fixed.
Yeah. No, that's so good. And I think it's one of those things that you can identify what's been done to you, but I think the first step in actually healing from that is identifying what it is that is continuing to hurt you and why. I know what someone said to me, right? If someone said something that hurt my feelings, I know what they said, but why did that bother me so much? Right. What insecurity do I have? What trauma do I have? What's the root in me that makes me so upset by what happened to me? Or what fear do I have that's being...
In what way do I not trust God to
Absolutely.
handle that?
What area of doubt is being poked by this statement or this offense that is causing me to hurt? And I think when we don't know the root of our pain, we obviously can't grow through it. Yeah, and we can't recover from it. Just like with any doctor, they need to know the root of your symptom.
You need to pull that root out.
It's not just about what your symptoms are and how you feel. It's why are you feeling this way and what's continuing to make you feel this way. And so my first step to healing would be to identify all of those things. What hurt you, why it hurt you, why it's continuing to hurt you, but also is there anything that you need to identify whether or not you've forgiven? Right. Is there anything that I have left unforgiven that is still festering inside of me? Because unforgiveness is an infection.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah. It is an infection.
It produces bitterness.
Yes.
All the things.
Bad side effects.
Nothing you want.
And it's a lot harder to treat the worse it gets, right? Because it hardens your heart. I've always described unforgiveness as it feels like a frost kind of covers my heart to where I'm so hardened to where nothing can get in and nothing can get out. Right. And including, I don't allow the Lord to come in either. Yeah, I don't allow him to come in and clean out all the gunk and make me deal with it, which is identifying those pain points, right? That's actually a marketing thing. In one of my classes for grad school, it had us identify the pain points of our client, which was okay, what does our client really need? What is the audience that we're trying to reach? What do they need that we can show them that we offer? Yeah. And so I thought that was kind of funny. And I was pain points. I love that. That's so good. And we need to do that with healing, but also with the forgiveness portion of healing is what do I need to forgive? And if I'm dealing with that unforgiveness, I need that medical attention ASAP. Yeah. I need the Lord to come in and work on that because it's hurting me more than it's hurting them. They don't often care that I don't forgive them. Right. Because most of the time they're not sorry.
No, a lot of the time they're not sorry, I think. And I think another interesting spin on it is too, there's sometimes things that we need to be forgiven for in some of those situations. I think that there are a lot of times when we are just so angry at someone or something they did, and we're not seeing completely straight. Like, I think that our vision gets clouded by that. Now, by no means is that always the case, and obviously there are things that are done to you that are horrible, and, you did nothing to deserve them. But I do think that, like, a good practice in the beginning of healing is also being like, okay, was I always completely fair to this person?
Accountability,
yeah. Like, take it, because I think that people respect that, too, when you come to them looking for that apology from them. You never know what somebody's going to be like, well, you also did this, and that hurt me. So I think being prepared for that is a good thing. Not that it's always relevant, but I do think that coming to it with a hard attitude of, okay, I can also be wrong in this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I agree. And that's the part that we don't like the most about it. Yeah,
the pride factor.
And I do think, too, we need to acknowledge that just because you forgive something does not mean that you are enabling it or okaying it or validating that it was okay that it was done to you. I think that's another reason people go away from forgiveness and don't want to forgive something is because they're like, well, I refuse to let them think that what they did's okay. And it's not.
You know what? I think the greatest example of that, though, and I totally relate because, like, I think the exact same way. And I'm like, I don't want to forgive that. That wasn't cool. And if they're not sorry, I especially don't want to forgive that. But I think Jesus is the greatest example of that. I think, we're called to be imitators of Christ and to be like him. And he died on a cross for sins that will never be repented for.
Yeah, like, he went for a lot of people that weren't sorry.
He went to the cross for a lot of people that weren't sorry and will not be sorry.
Well, that ought to convict you.
And will never accept that gift.
Yeah.
So I think that is a huge one. Paul says in Colossians, that we should forgive others because we've been forgiven much. And I think Jesus also goes as far to say somewhere in Matthew that if we don't forgive others, that how are we to be forgiven? And I think
and how are you to understand the weight of forgiveness?
Exactly.
And the woman with the alabaster jar in Luke is one of my favorite examples of that. And she has a poor reputation. She's not very well loved by the community, especially not by the Pharisees. And she comes in while the Lord, like Jesus, while he's on earth, is dining with the Pharisees and the disciples. And she pours her oil on his feet, like this expensive bottle of oil.
And his disciples get mad and are like, why
would they're all
like waste the oil?
You're wasting the oil. And then the Pharisees are like, you don't have the right to come near him. And he says, she who has been forgiven of much loves much. And it's because she understands the weight of what she's been forgiven of. So I do think, yes, that's totally true, that when we have experienced our own forgiveness, we can also understand what that does. I think that brings healing too.
Yeah, for sure.
When someone forgives me when I've been wrong, I'm like,
absolutely.
I feel like I can heal. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, because Jesus, honestly, like, if anyone had the right to hold on to unforgiveness, if anyone had the right to be bitter because they are perfect, like, we could never hold ourselves to that and be like, oh, I'm perfect in this situation and they just wronged me. Like, we can't. But Jesus literally could be like, I was perfect. I did nothing to deserve any of this, and you're not even sorry, so I don't forgive it. But he didn't choose that, and I think that is so incredibly encouraging. It
is. It's beautiful. Yeah. And like you said, died for so many people that weren't sorry, and I think that's actually leads into my second step of what I think the second step to forgiveness and in healing is to release the requirement of an apology.
Yeah.
Because we also desperately want someone to sign off on our healing and sign off on our forgiveness. Like, please give me permission to heal from what you've done to me. And we think the apology is how we get that. And it's not.
No.
Because I'll be honest, I've gotten the apology and I'm like, I don't feel any better. Yeah, I don't feel any better.
It didn't take the pain away. Maybe it took the accountability away. And it's like, okay, I'm glad that you did that and I appreciate it. But also that didn't heal me.
Right. And we have to stop giving people the power to dictate whether or not we get to heal. We don't need their permission. The only person that needs to sign off on your healing is you. And the Lord gives us the ability to do that. But we love to give that power to other people. And we do that with all kinds of things. But we love to be like, oh, no, I don't want it here. You just tell me when I'm allowed to heal and move on. And, we just wait for this apology and wait, and it never comes. And then we're like, well, I'll never be able to move on from it. And it's like, that doesn't have to be true.
No, absolutely not. Like, I think you get to decide that for yourself.
Absolutely. And so I think we've covered, how, like, what role forgiveness plays in healing. That was my next question, and I feel like we covered that.
Yeah,
but my other question is, what are your practical steps? What are practical steps either that you have taken or that you would suggest someone use in their daily life to walk toward healing and walk in forgiveness and healing?
Yeah. So I think my first one is definitely going to be prayer, because I think that it combats something else that I like to do a lot, which is ranting or complaining to someone else.
Venting.
Yeah. So I think that our natural human response when we are hurt by someone, and especially if they're not sorry for it, not taking accountability, is I need to go find somebody else to validate this for me.
Yes.
So
again,
like,
permission.
Even if it's Micah. Like, I think there are times I've probably called you first. And it
maybe Micah will sign off on my...
Yeah, maybe Micah. And, Micah always will sign off on my hurt. So, like, it's a good bet.
It's like, yes, they hurt
Very
you.
I
agree.
Opinion.
Yes.
But I also will hear truth from her, too. So let's not go too crazy with that one.
I won't let you get hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will totally validate that I agree this was wrong, right? But I might not agree that we should like TP houses or start fires and stuff.
So
yes, yeah.
But anyway, I think something that I've been convicted of a lot in the past is before I pick up the phone to call my best friend or call somebody else and be like, "Listen, you're never gonna believe this." Is to go to the Lord in prayer and be like, this just happened to me and I don't know how I feel about it and I'm angry and I'm confused and I don't know why this person that maybe I thought valued me or this thing happened to me. Maybe it's not even a person like deliberately doing something against you. Maybe it's just circumstance that happened. Maybe it's failing a class. Maybe it's something crazy and you're just like, I don't know why the cards are stacked against me right now. And I'm really angry and I'm really upset and I either am mad at this person and I want somebody to tell them or they need to be held accountable for this. My first reaction needs to be to go to him about that versus going to somebody else because we all know how gossip spreads and how situations get thrown out of proportion. So I think the top one is definitely prayer because also scripture tells us that he's near to the brokenhearted and that he binds up their wounds. So who better for me to go to than him? Like, I can go to Micah and I can rant and she can offer me encouragement. But ultimately, she's not God. She can't offer me that healing. She can't sign off on it like you said earlier. So that would be my biggest one. And I think also, like, understanding that going to the Lord honestly in prayer is a thing. We actually talked about this in our small group that we host here last night. And it was a really good conversation. And we were just talking about how it's okay to be honest and sometimes brutally honest with God in prayer. I think obviously we should always be respectful, but it's not wrong to go to God and be like, I don't understand why this happened. I don't know why you let this happen to me. And I'm really confused and I'm really hurt. And maybe you're even frustrated with God and you're like, why would you let this happen to me? And that's completely okay. And I do think that we get answers that way. I think obviously it should be done respectfully. And you should also come at it from the perspective of, I know that all things work together for good. And that you want what's best for me. And that I don't understand it, not in an angry way, but in a help me understand it way.
Yeah.
So prayer is definitely my top one. I think meditating on the promises that we find in Scripture, the solid truths that we can have there, instead of the lies that we're being fed or the pain that we're enduring, making that our identity. I think speaking truth over the situation, I think when we're like, oh, I'll never get over this, also remembering, like, all things work together for good. Yeah. That's very real. And I think that's a big part of it. Identifying with your pain is huge. I think we all know the person that has the victim mentality and it's never a good thing. And we've probably all been her before, her or him. And like, it's not cute. It's not cute.
The victim mentality is not cute.
It is not cute.
That's
and
the best
line
of the whole episode.
Because I have been her, and looking back, I'm like,
you were not cute like that.
Not cute.
I agree with that 100%. I have felt that way too. I'm like, like, Micah, that's not it. You need to get over yourself.
And I think like we sometimes read the story of Ruth, and like Naomi is there. And, obviously she loses her husband and her 2 sons, which is tragic. And, I don't know how I deal with that here. But then we read it, and she gets to the end, and she changes her name to Bitterness. And we're like, girl, what? Like,
oh, my gosh. I'm, like, traumatized, too, because the name change process. Imagine changing it to Bitterness. I'm sitting here like, wow, all that work to be Bitterness. Wonder what it was like back then to change your name. Did you just, like, speak it?
And we're like, hey, changing my name.
Changing my Instagram name to Bitterness. Bitterness.123 is my new user.
How are you feeling? I'm bitter.
What is it? Relationship status?
Yes.
In a relationship with bitterness.
But, like, I think we come at that was so much judgment, and we're like, oh my gosh,
how could she ever do that?
This girl literally like changed her name to bitterness.
Yeah.
But I think that we do that unofficially so often.
Absolutely, you're preaching now.
Like, I think that we do that so often, and we're just like, oh, this hurt. Like, that is what's going to define me for the rest of my life, and that's what I'm going to bond with people over.
Yes.
I'm going to create friendships on that, and guess what? Those friendships don't last after you like start moving on. It's like, did we have any depth? Like,
this phrase in, like, I feel like the Christianese language or whatever, coming to agreement or coming into agreement with. And I feel like when we're hurt, because I feel like it follows kind of what you're saying about bitterness. When we are hurt and we choose to identify with what's been done to us and the pain, and we just basically allow it to consume us or identify us, like you said, I am coming into agreement with the lies those people said about me. I am coming into agreement with the lies the enemy has told me. I am coming into agreement with the emotions that I feel about this and making them bigger than just feelings. Yeah. I'm making them an identity. And so we talked about signing off, right? Well, imagine a contract in front of you and someone's saying, okay, you are nothing more than what you feel right now, or you are what that person said about you, or you are weak and broken because of this, and you sign your name and agree with it. Yeah. And then go out and live that way and choose to be labeled by that. And if you label yourself that way, people will label you that way. It's not always someone else's fault. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think about that when I flip it that way, and I'm like, I do not agree with what was spoken about me.
No, and that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to be sad. Yeah. Like, don't take that as I'm not allowed to, like, show people emotion, and I'm not allowed to feel these things or speak with people about them. But it does enter into a very dangerous territory when that becomes all that you can speak about and all that you can dwell on, because there's so much good in life to dwell on instead of that.
Yeah, when God says exactly who you are in Scripture. So if you're ever doubting that, that's where you need to find that. But
like you're a daughter or son of the King.
Yes, like, and our hurt is loud, though. And I actually remember I wrote this down about myself a long time ago. Ew, this is vulnerable. I forgot about this. Oh my gosh. But I remember I had written down that I felt like my hope was very quiet and my wounds were very loud. And I felt like from my actions and the way I spoke about myself and my situation, it was very like, who hurt you? Yeah. And I had people ask me that. Yeah. In different relationships in my life, I had people say, who hurt you? And I was like, I don't really want to live that way to where people can see that so vividly, because I wear my pain instead of, moving on.
Like, that is a big way that bitterness does manifest itself. I think you're listening to other people's happiness and you're interjecting comments, and they're like, man, who hurt you? Like, what happened to you? And then you're like, oh, well, let me tell you what happened to me.
Yeah,
and
you
let
use
me
it as a platform to, again, nothing comes from that. In fact, I think that takes you back. Again, it hardens that unforgiveness. When it people validate it. Yes, thank you. Go ahead. That's exactly what I was going to say.
No, you're good. That's all. Go ahead.
Yeah, when you allow people to confirm how you feel about it, not that there's anything wrong with it.
Like reboost that.
Well, and it solidifies. Yep, I'm right, you're wrong.
And it's front and center again.
Yep. Or it's like, yep, you're right, they wronged me, I'm going to leave it be. And I just think that we take healing as vengeance sometimes. We think if we get an eye for an eye, or that we, post that pic looking good, that all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm healed.
I'm healed.
It's like, actually, you're the opposite of that.
Actually said to turn the other cheek.
Yes. And so I think we think that we are projecting that we're so healed from things, but our brokenness is so evident. And because being made whole in the Lord does not look the same as it does to the world. Like, being healed and whole to the world is posting the petty stuff and gossiping about it, like you said, or getting back at them and making them look bad and ruining their reputation.
Like, I think that's a big one too. Like, you're like, these are my people and I'm taking them with me.
Yep. You don't always have to exercise your right to tell your side of the story.
No. Sometimes going away quietly is the best thing you can do.
And that's so hard for me.
It's so hard for
Partly
me as well.
because I'm just like, and not even because I have this like deep-rooted thing to ruin someone, but I'm like, I just want you to understand that I didn't do anything wrong here. Yeah. And again, it's not always true.
It's not even that, but like
sometimes
maybe the big
it
hurt
is.
was not your fault.
Yeah.
Maybe like obviously there are things there that you did do wrong and you take accountability for those, but like the last nail in the coffin was not on you, and you're like, I need everybody to know that wasn't me. Yeah. And like,
God says to be still, that he'll fight for you. I will avenge you. You need to just be still. And I'm like, do you know what you just asked me to do? Yeah. Asking me to hold still and be quiet.
I rarely am quiet.
No, it's horrible.
I cannot sit in silence.
Yeah. And I was fidgety as a kid, and I'm emotionally fidgety now. Like, I'm like, please don't make me just walk away from this. However, I have found, though, that if I keep opening the door for that hurt, like if I keep it alive this way, the door is cracked all the time. And the enemy keeps allowing it to come in and break me down further and further and further. And I think that is where we lose the battle with healing, is that we harbor instead of heal. And eventually it gets so full in there. There's nothing else. It consumes you, right? And one of the ways I want to encourage you as well, one of my other steps to working towards healing, is to get rid of that deadline that you have to heal in a certain amount of time after you're hurt. Like, you know how you have something happen, they're like, okay, you have 30 days to return it or change it or whatever. Like, healing doesn't work that way. There's not like a time period after the hurt happens that it's like, okay, well, if you don't heal by this point, you're not going to heal. Some people re-heal all the time because, I mean, think about like scabs, right? Scabs break and then you re-bleed and then you have to re-heal and it re-scabs and then you have to keep treating it.
Or people have chronic illnesses, like things that they will literally struggle with for their whole entire life.
And some people will. I think you'll have to actively, healing is active. It's not something that like you put, okay, healed, move it on to the next shelf.
Or
like
another really good example is like Paul and the thorn in his flesh. That he like prayed to the Lord multiple times, and he was like, "Lord, please take this away from me. Please take this away from me." And like we don't ever get told what that was, but
it's so true. We never do.
Yeah, and I could go down that rabbit hole.
Another episode.
That'll take me 5 years to explain.
Yeah,
but I think that's another thing. It's like we may ask for him to take away things, and I'm sure whatever that thorn in his flesh was, I'm sure that it was growing him in some way. I'm sure that he was learning from it. And that it was bettering him as a Christian and as, like, a soldier of Christ. Like, he's out there ministering to people every day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was a specific reason that God didn't take it away from him. So sometimes I think our hurt is like that. Like, he's producing a testimony, and he wants us to learn from it and to teach others from it. And it may never go away completely. But I think learning to be okay with that and just acknowledging that he has a plan and that it's better and higher than anything I could ever imagine.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us, when we are trying to heal, you're always like, well, I won't ever make that mistake again, right? We all think that just because it's been done and we moved on, we know better. And we don't always. But I do think that we can learn, like you said, and God really teaches us a lot about ourselves in healing. I don't think healing is learning everything they did wrong. It's more about learning just what I can do to be more like Jesus in this situation too. And sometimes it is to protect yourself further from past hurts and things like that. But I do really believe that forgiveness is so much more about us than it is the other person, because it actually doesn't take any two people to forgive anyone. It takes one person to forgive. I mean, two if you count. Like, it takes you and a lot of Jesus, right?
But like, it
doesn't take my offender to get forgiveness from me at all. It's a decision I make to forgive them, whether they're sorry or not. Learning that I could forgive people without them being sorry, like, changed my whole life. Because I waited years for certain apologies and never got them, never will. Or I did get them and it didn't do anything for me. And there's also times that I remember with the timeline conversation, you know, giving yourself the grace to heal at your own pace is like, I told the Lord, I'm not ready to forgive them. I totally understand that you're calling me to do that and it's biblical. But in my own humanity, I am not ready, and I need you to give me time. And of course he did, because he's just good like that. That he wasn't like, well, I'm going to strike you with lightning because you're not healing within 4 months, right? Like, I mean, sometimes it takes years before I could ever speak the words, I forgive that person for what they did. Or maybe I still haven't. I mean, it just depends on what, you know, for your own situation. Because there are some things that are seriously not okay.
I was going to say, this is not to downplay anybody's hurt. Like, there are some things that are so much easier, like relationship things, just random things, random hurts that we might let produce bitterness and fester in us. But, like, there are some serious things that happen in the world.
Some deep violations and things
absolutely,
that
you did nothing to deserve. And they take a long time to come to, and maybe you'll never come. Like, there are some things that are so horrible that I sometimes think about, and I'm like, if that happened to me, I don't know that I'd ever be able to come to a genuine place of forgiveness for that. But, like, the hope in that is also that, like, Jesus he makes room for that. Like, there is forgiveness for our shortcomings in that. Yes.
Well, I even think, you know, from any standpoint, anything that you've been through, there is freedom in forgiveness, and there is freedom in Jesus. And we can find that impossible forgiveness with the Lord. It's not by our own strength, but by his, that we're able to come to that. And again, this person may never know that you forgive them, and that's totally okay. But you know, that you have forgiven them, and that's something you have
the Lord
released.
knows that you've followed that command.
Absolutely, yeah. And so that's a great segue into our last question about this. So Hannah, what would you say to someone who is walking through a situation where they feel like they will never heal from it?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, like you kind of mentioned, I would point out like healing is a journey, and everybody's journey looks completely different. And I think that our healing journey is designed in a specific way to produce growth in us. I don't think that God heals us all the same, because He knows exactly where we are. He knows what we need in those moments. He is creating and like perfectly curating our healing journey to what we need to grow closer to Him, to love people more, to live our lives more abundantly, like He said. I think that is a huge part of it. And then I think going back to the not everybody's journey is the same. We get so caught up in comparing ourselves and being like, well, this person went through something really similar and they got over it. Like, they're doing great. And here I am, and it's 2 years down the road, and that thing still haunts me, and it still comes up in my mind, and it still brings me back into this like pit of despair. And you're just like, why, God, can't I get through that? And I think that comparing is just such a dangerous thing, because there's so much intention in what God does and why He does it. And if we would just rest in what we know about God and allow Him to help us heal. And also, like, there are always the things that we're maybe not ready to do. Like, we're not forgiving, and we're delaying our own healing in that. So going back, I think, and checking and making sure, like, I've checked my boxes in a way, and I've covered my bases, and now I'm just kind of resting in the Lord and trying to see what His plan is moving forward.
For sure.
I think my last one, though, would be the hope of He's not going to leave you where you are. I think we get so caught up in being like, am I ever going to get out of here? And in all reality, like, it may suck and it may take a long time, and you may get frustrated and angry and just be like, why can't I get out of this? But there's hope that Jesus didn't create you to put you here and let you just despair all the time. Like, there's so much joy in the Lord, even if maybe you don't ever completely heal from that one thing, there's so much joy to be found in the Lord. And He also says, you know, like, Satan is a roaring lion on the earth, but I came so that you can have life and that you may have it abundantly.
For sure.
And I don't think we can continue to sit in all of our hurt and have life abundantly. So
amen.
Like, I don't think that's possible. So I think that there's always hope that you're not going to be where you are forever. And even if you don't ever completely get over that one thing, or it takes a long time, you're still going to gradually get there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's great.
That would be mine.
That's great. I really don't need to even follow up with it.
I
mean, we could stop it right there and be good. I do think my advice would be to someone who feels like they're never going to heal from what they're going through is to try to learn to fall in love with the person that God is making you through your healing. Because it's not always the prettiest version of yourself, but I found that a healed version of me was a lot freer than a hurt version of me. And in truth, a lot more beautiful in the end, because I might have still been in pieces, and I might have still, you know, not been over things and been a complete hot mess express, but at least I was walking with the Lord in it, and the Lord had His hand in it, and a mess that the Lord has His hands in is a lot better than anything I can do.
Right.
And so I would encourage you to leave space for that grace for yourself. You know, this is a process. It's long and it's slow oftentimes, and you might have to start over and re-heal. Right. And there will probably be scars. You know, most people, that's one thing I think that we get really bad about, is we think that when we heal, we go exactly back to how we were, like the practical version. But in truth, even in like medicine, you know, like my sister tore ACL, and when they fixed it, she still had a scar from what had been done from the fixing, the middle that you talked about last time, what happened in the middle. And you might have some of those when you come out of it, but I don't think at all that means that you're less of a version or less whole than you were before.
And speaking from a place of like having been through some really tough things that left me really hurt, I wouldn't trade them. Like, there are scars that are left there that, like, yes, they hurt so much going through, and like, I don't ever want to go back there, and I don't ever want to feel those things again. But I'm so thankful now that I did moving forward, and I'm thankful that I have the scars to prove it, because it's a reminder of what I went through, how I dealt with it, what the Lord did in it, and how He's drawn me out of it.
Yeah, it's just like the verse, it says, a monument for the Lord, an everlasting sign that will not be destroyed. The Lord's hand in your life can't be removed. Like, that's not, that evidence won't disappear.
Well, I think
people
another
will know you healed that way.
Is like on the cross, like the scars that He has on His hands.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
Didn't go away.
Didn't go away.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, got to wear those things proudly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you can surrender, if you can surrender the fact that you think it needs to look a certain way, and if you can acknowledge that healing is not going back to how you were, but it's moving forward to what God wants you to be and what God has for you.
That becomes exciting.
It does. It's true. Like really I can't wait to see healed Micah. She's got to be a heck of a lot better looking than hurt Micah. I mean, but that's just what he does, and I love that. I love that he can come into that and to just bring so much beauty from it, and to use the things that we think nobody would ever want to have anything to do with, or the parts of us that we don't like, or the hurts that we thought we'd never get over, and he can just completely make gardens out of them. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah. Happy healing, everybody.
Yeah.
Good luck with it. It's great.
We're getting there.
Yes, but I do hope this episode was super helpful for you all. And I hope that if any of you are healing from something, that you know that the Lord is with you, that you're not alone. Everyone's healing from something.
For you.
Definitely praying. Hannah, thanks for coming back.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, I'm happy I got to share you today. If you have not yet subscribed to the show, please do subscribe so that you'll be notified when all the new episodes come in. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, and watch on YouTube. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
So,